You know that feeling when you're alone, doors locked, lights off, and suddenly your brain goes, hey, what if someone is watching you right now? Not a ghost, not a monster, just someone. Your heart rate spikes, your posture changes, and you suddenly feel the overwhelming need to act normal for an audience that doesn't exist. Congratulations, you've just activated one of humanity's oldest survival alarms. This fear didn't come from horror movies, it came from being lunch. For most of human history, being watched meant you were about to be hunted, ambushed, or very quickly removed from the gene pool. Our ancestors survived by detecting tiny cues, rustling leaves, broken branches, that subtle sense of presence. The brain evolved to treat uncertainty as danger because assuming nothing was there got people killed. Assuming something might be there kept them alive. So now your modern brain sits in a safe house with Wi-Fi and decides the shadow near your closet is a potential apex predator. The same neural circuits that once scanned forests for lions are now scanning reflections in your TV screen. Your amygdala doesn't care that you live on the third floor of an apartment building. It just knows that unseen eyes equal threat. That's why this fear feels so intense and so stupid at the same time. Logic says you're fine. Biology says, cool story, but we're running. Basically, your brain is acting like you're still a snack-sized mammal in tall grass, just with worse lighting and better furniture. Some people say they're not afraid of the dark. They're lying, they're just afraid of what might be in it, which is way worse. Because darkness isn't scary on its own, it's scary because it deletes information, and your brain hates missing data. When the lights go out, your visual system clocks out early and your imagination clocks in for the night shift. Suddenly, every sound has lore, every shadow has a backstory. Your brain starts filling in blanks like a conspiracy theorist with a corkboard and no supervision. Evolutionarily, darkness was prime danger time. Predators hunted at night. Visibility dropped. Reaction time mattered more than accuracy. So the human brain learned to assume the worst because being wrong in the dark had consequences like never waking up again. That's why kids are terrified of the dark, and why adults still sprint up the stairs after turning off the lights. You're not scared of darkness, you're scared of vulnerability. Darkness removes your ability to predict, and your brain responds by screaming, "We should not be here." Modern life didn't remove this fear, it just made it awkward. You know the room is empty, you've lived there for years, but your nervous system doesn't trust electricity. It trusts patterns burned into DNA from a time when glowing eyes in the dark were not decorative. So when you sleep with a nightlight, you're not weak, you're just negotiating a ceasefire with 200,000 years of paranoia. Imagine floating above water so deep your brain can't even estimate the bottom, no walls, no reference points, just endless blue void. Suddenly, your chest tightens, even if you're a strong swimmer. That's not fear of drowning, that's fear of not knowing what's below you. Humans evolved near water, not in it. We drank from it, crossed it carefully, and occasionally got eaten by things living inside it. The ocean, lakes, and deep rivers were unpredictable zones where visibility was trash and escape options were limited. Anything could be down there, and sometimes something was. Your brain treats deep water like a cosmic horror movie. The lack of visual feedback triggers the same response as standing near a cliff. Your spatial awareness freaks out because it can't anchor you to anything solid. There's no up, no down, no scale, just floating uncertainty. That's why even in a pool, people get uneasy when they can't touch the bottom. It's not about depth, it's about control. The deeper the water, the more your brain feels like it's surrendering dominance to an environment that doesn't care about you. Basically, your fear isn't irrational. It's your nervous system reminding you that humans were never meant to vibe in infinite liquid space. That's fish business. You see a cluster of tiny holes on skin, in plants, in foam, and suddenly your stomach flips. Your skin crawls. You feel itchy for no reason. Congratulations, you've just met trypophobia, a fear so specific it sounds fake until your nervous system absolutely loses its mind. This reaction isn't about holes, it's about disease. Your brain evolved to recognize visual patterns associated with infection, parasites, and decay. Clusters of holes resemble things like insect nests, rotting flesh, rashes, or parasites burrowed under skin. To your ancient brain, those patterns scream, something is very wrong here. Do not touch, do not approach, do not exist near this. The modern brain, unfortunately, applies this logic to sponges, lotus pods, and high-resolution photos of fruit. It doesn't matter that you know it's harmless. The reaction bypasses logic entirely and goes straight to disgust mode, which is basically fear's gross cousin. Disgust evolved as a protective emotion. Fear makes you run. Disgust makes you recoil. Both exist to keep you alive, but disgust specifically handles biohazards. So when you feel nauseous or itchy looking at holes, your brain is trying to prevent you from interacting with potential pathogens. Basically, your nervous system is acting like an overprotective parent yelling, "Don't touch that. It has germs," even when it's literally a kitchen sponge minding its own business. Silence sounds peaceful until it doesn't, until it gets heavy, until your thoughts get loud, until your brain starts narrating things you didn't invite to the conversation. Humans didn't evolve in quiet places. Silence meant danger. No birds, no insects, no wind. Something is wrong. In nature, silence often meant a predator had entered the area and everything else shut up about it. So your brain learned to treat silence as a warning sign. When sound disappears, your nervous system perks up, scanning for threats. That's why total silence feels uncomfortable, even unsettling. It removes environmental feedback, leaving your brain alone with its own thoughts, and it does not behave responsibly when unsupervised. Modern silence doesn't mean danger, but your brain doesn't care. It fills the void with anxiety, intrusive thoughts, or existential dread because it would rather create noise than sit in uncertainty. That's why people sleep with fans, music, or TV noise. It's not for entertainment, it's to trick the brain into thinking everything is normal and nothing is stalking you in the dark. Basically, silence isn't peaceful to your brain, it's suspicious. Clowns are supposed to be funny, bright colors, big smiles, balloons, and yet a significant number of people would rather fight a raccoon than be alone with one. That's because clowns hit a psychological sweet spot of wrongness. Humans are incredibly sensitive to facial expressions. We rely on them to predict behavior. Clowns break that system. Their faces are exaggerated, frozen, and unreadable. The smile doesn't change. The eyes don't match the emotion. Your brain can't tell what they're thinking, and that's a problem. This taps into something called the uncanny valley, where something looks almost human, but not quite. That mismatch triggers discomfort because your brain can't categorize it properly. Is this friendly? Threatening? Alive? Your neural circuits start throwing error messages. Historically, masks and face paint were often used in rituals, warfare, or deception. Seeing a human hide their true face meant they might not have good intentions, so when a clown approaches, your brain quietly whispers, "Why are they hiding?" Basically, clowns aren't scary because of horror movies. They're scary because your brain doesn't trust anyone who smiles that hard without blinking. You're surrounded by people, shoulder to shoulder, no clear exits. Your breathing gets shallow, your heart rate climbs, and suddenly you're very aware of how fragile your personal space is. Crowd fear isn't about people, it's about loss of control. In early human history, being trapped in a crowd meant competition for resources, risk of violence, or inability to escape danger. Your brain evolved to monitor spacing, movement, and escape routes constantly. When those vanish, your nervous system flips into alert mode. Crowds also overload your senses. Too many faces, sounds, movements. Your brain struggles to track everything, which creates stress. And when stress rises, fear follows. Basically, your brain is trying to keep you alive by saying, if something goes wrong here, we're screwed. So when crowds make you anxious, it's not social weakness. It's your survival instincts reminding you that humans prefer space for running, breathing, and not getting trampled. Dolls are tiny humans that don't blink, don't breathe, and don't follow the rules of reality, and your brain hates that with passion. From a psychological standpoint, dolls are unsettling because they look human but fail every subtle test of being alive. Their eyes don't track naturally. Their faces are frozen in expressions that never change. They exist in that deeply cursed space where your brain keeps asking, "Is this a person?" and never gets a satisfying answer. Evolution trained humans to read micro-expressions for survival. Is someone angry, sick, about to attack? Dolls block that system entirely. No emotional feedback, no behavioral cues, just a silent stare. To your brain, that's not neutral, it's suspicious. Historically, human-like figures were also tied to death rituals, effigies, and symbolic stand-ins for real people. So a lifeless human replica triggers subconscious associations with corpses. That's right, your discomfort with dolls is just your brain whispering, "This looks like a dead person pretending not to be." And when a doll moves, game over. That violates every expectation your nervous system has about how reality works. Basically, dolls aren't creepy because they're possessed. They're creepy because your brain can't decide whether to treat them as objects or bodies, and it hates being indecisive. Standing on a tall ledge doesn't just make you afraid of falling, it makes you afraid of yourself. Your brain suddenly goes, "What if you jumped?" Not because you want to, but because your nervous system is stress testing danger. This phenomenon is called the call of the void, and it's your brain rapidly checking worst case scenarios to reinforce survival. Heights are dangerous because gravity is undefeated. Early humans who underestimated height risk didn't stick around long enough to pass on their genes, so the brain evolved an intense fear response tied to elevation, balance, and visual depth. When you're high up, your inner ear, eyes, and muscles all work overtime to maintain stability. Any mismatch sends panic signals. Your body tightens, your thoughts race, your brain goes full drama mode because one wrong move equals permanent consequences. That intrusive thought about jumping, it's not a desire, it's your brain slamming the emergency brakes and yelling, "Do not do that." Basically, fear of heights is your nervous system aggressively protecting you from gravity's long-standing murder streak. Not lonely, alone. No backup, no witnesses, no one to help if something goes wrong. This fear hits deep because humans did not survive solo. We survived in groups. Being isolated meant injury, exposure, or death. Your brain still treats isolation as a threat. That's why being alone too long can cause anxiety, paranoia, or existential dread. Without social feedback, your thoughts spiral inward. There's no external regulation, no reassurance. Just you and a brain that evolved to cooperate, not self-soothe indefinitely. In prehistoric times, being alone meant you were vulnerable. No one to watch your back, no one to help if you got hurt. So the brain learned to associate solitude with danger. Modern life reframed this fear as emotional instead of physical, but the wiring stayed the same. That's why isolation hurts. It's not weakness, it's biology screaming, "We're not built for this." Basically, fear of being alone exists because humans are a team sport, and your brain never forgot that. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.